All right, nigga, we live. I'm not sure, but I think we live. Nigga, starting off crazy. Fuck it. All right, so today episode of the culture, I wanted to switch everything up. You know what I'm saying? We still gonna do our little snippets covering certain songs and all of that, but I also want to give flowers to the different contributors in our culture and the impacts that they made. So I wanted to start off, and we're gonna go ladies first. You know what I'm saying? We're gonna hit up Missy Elliot. So Miss Melissa Arnett Elliott was born on July 1st, 1971, in Portsmouth, Virginia, a working class military and shipyard city on the southern edge of Hampton Roads Metro, a region defined by naval installations, black church culture, and a tight knit but economically constrained community. Portsmouth sits in the shadow of Norfolk and Virginia Beach without the relative visibility of either, and the social texture of the city during Missy's childhood was shaped by post industrial stagnation, working poverty, and the rhythms of a deeply southern black community. Her father, Ronnie, was a U.S. Marine, and the family lived in a mobile home in Jacksonville, North Carolina. While he was in the service, before moving back to Portsmouth after his military service ended, they were living in what was described as a rat infested shack. So it was said that Ronnie,
What? Oh my God.
yeah, that's crazy, right? See, she ain't the only one traumatized by them rats. So Ronnie, yeah, for real, Ronnie was violent and would be beating on Patricia in front of their daughter. The instability was not just financial, but existential. Elliot experienced further trauma at age 8 when she was SA'd by an older cousin. These are not background footnotes, these are load bearing facts for understanding everything else that comes after this. You know what I'm saying? And all of the sources I'll drop later on or put into the description. So her earliest musical experiences were in church in the choir, and she began constructing an inner fantasy life around music from that early young age. She would sing into broomstick microphones, for an audience of dolls, performing from a top on top of trash cans for passing cars. She would write songs about whatever was nearby. This is a significant detail. Missy, she didn't discover music as a teenager through hip hop radio. She arrived at hip hop already formed as a songwriter and performer, having used music as a survival mechanism during those early dark years. Her mother eventually left her father when Missy was 14. This decision was a turning point that removed the most immediate source of violence from her life. The regional context matters more than it typically receives credit for. Virginia Beach and its surrounding cities would become one of the most fertile creative environments in the 1990s as far as hip hop. So, you had people like up and coming Timberland, you had Pharrell Williams, Chad Hugo, of course, Missy herself. That concentration. Oh, wait a minute, but we can't leave out Teddy Riley. You know what I'm saying? So now I got to quote another indirect source or a direct source. If you go to Drink Champs, I believe, in an interview, I believe that they had with Teddy Riley, he was talking about how he left Harlem due to whatever issues that was going on there. He relocated to VA Beach, and because the cops was fucking with him, thinking that he was a drug dealer, like why is this nigga down here with all this money, and he got a full blown studio, The cops, to kind of get the cops off his back, he offered to do some kind of program with the local high schools to let some of the kids from the nearby high schools use his studio resources, for certain hours free to quote unquote give back. And then once he did that, that got the police off his back. And then he was able to kind of move and shake how he needed to move and shake. And out of that group of young kids was a fucking young Timberland, Missy, Chad, Pharrell, and the rest is history. But back to her history. So yeah, back her earliest experiences was in the choir, and she pretty much had a nice little network of up and coming musicians who shared similar dreams of herself, right? So that concentration of talent wasn't an accident. It reflected a regional subculture that sat at the intersection of Southern Black music traditions, military communities, social networks, and a geographic isolation that forced these young artists to develop their aesthetic without constant exposure to New York or LA industry pressure. So they were basically free to be who the fuck they wanted to be without having to emulate a New York or LA or even an Atlanta, since they was in the middle of nowhere, basically, for all intents and purposes. VA wasn't really on the map like that yet. So the persona Missy Misdemeanor Elliot is one of the most carefully and deliberately constructed identities in hip hop history, and yet it never reads as constructed. That tension is central to her artistic achievement. Her name, Misdemeanor, positions her as transgressive but not criminal, playful but not harmless. It's a legal category that implies rule breaking without catastrophe. You know what I'm saying? So she had that going on for her, but then she was also on some avant-garde type shit as far as her aesthetic, but still fitting into the hip hop, fashion sense at the same time while kind of being different. So what makes her identity unusual is that she refused the genre's dominant framework for women. She was not hypersexualized in her videos. You know what I'm saying? And she wasn't performing a masculine toughness either. She kind of just created another lane altogether, which was an eccentric but powerful, funny, persona. Her body, which was full figured, and she was proud of that at that time in her life. She leaned into it fully and
I know
became
that's right. Thick
exactly.
and proud.
You know what I'm saying? Let him know, big body.
Especially back then, like, skinny was in, model. It's only been the last maybe 5 years that people want ass.
Shit, I would say the last damn near shit since 1996. Most of the female rappers were more sexualized, like your little Kims.
Definitely.
I would say now Lauren Hill, obviously she didn't go that route and still was successful. You had some underground artists like Bahamadia. Um, I can't think. Oh, Foxy Brown. She still kind of went the sexualized route. But most of the female artists after that, going into the 2000s, definitely was on that sexualized route. So that further kind of
Yeah, for sure,
makes
because that's how they felt. You know what I mean? It wasn't a lot of rooms for that for women especially. So their sexuality typically unfortunately got them into those rooms.
no. That's correct. That's 100% correct. Even going into the mid 2000s, I'm trying to really think of like
Man, even
rapper.
now.
I'm trying to think of even like shit Iggy Azalea, fucking the Azalea Banks. Who else was female rappers from early 2000s to mid 2000s before your girl came in?
like even Nicki, Rihanna, like
Yeah.
everybody did very sexy, sexual music videos, music, like very like, fuck my,
Yeah.
F my PUSSY, like,
Now,
all
broke
that kind of
Nikki
stuff.
was different than famous Nikki. Broke Nikki still was fully clothed, at least from what I kind of remember. Even though I'm sauced up, you know what I'm saying?
No, Nikki did a lot of sexual stuff too.
What, even early
Bro, nigga
underground?
was throwing it around. Yeah, she was throwing it around then too.
Okay. All right, see. So that further separates Missy from the rest of these joints. Like Missy, she did the shit her way. She wasn't trying to go into the back room. She wasn't trying to show everything off. She let her talent shine and shit. You know what I'm saying? So to continue on, her body, which was full figure and she was proud to rep it, became a site, or it became like a creative statement rather than an apology. You know what I mean? She described her famous inflatable suit as a symbol of power, saying she loved the idea of feeling like a hip hop Michelin woman. That reframing turned her body, that the industry might have coded as problematic, into a visual punchline that she controlled. She controlled the narrative on what she looked like and what everybody else needed to think about on her looks. Like, I may be big, but I'm a fly talented bitch. And if you want me on your song, and
Exactly.
you want
Foxy
your album
fucking
to go
host your shit.
platinum, you know who to fucking get on your album. So now to go into the creative process and the artistry. So Missy Elliott, her creative process is inseparable from her collaboration with childhood friend and producer Timbaland, with whom she got her start as part of Jodeci founder Devontae Swing's Swing Mob collective in the early 1990s, a collective that included Genuine, Magoo, and others. Now, I didn't know that Devontae had a connection to Timberland, Missy, Magoo, Genuine. This is like we learning shit together in real time. You know what I'm saying? So that's a gem right there.
Yeah, I definitely didn't know that.
Timberland, it says that he basically kind of laid the little foundation, beat wise for the whole clique and for the region. And Missy filled the space with melodic and rhythmic intelligence that few rappers, male or female, could replicate. Her and Timberland forged their shared sound in the mid 1990s, incorporating gritty beats and futuristic textures over playful raps. And in the following decade, they pushed hip hop boundaries further with electronica, offbeat rhythms, and old school funk, producing work that was avant garde yet consistently accessible. So, that last quality is crucial and often understated in critical evaluations. Accessibility is a skill. Making experimental music that also functions as pop radio hits requires a double fluency that most artists cannot manage. You know what I mean? She definitely, you know what I mean? Like, so just to go off script, like, I was in the industry still at that time in New York, and at MC, motherfuckers was bumping that shit like, she was so different from anything that I really even like experienced. Like, you had Lauren Hill, who was different and unique in her way, even though she was still kind of part of the Fugees and had that association. Missy was just so out of left field with her shit, but the shit, everything that she was dropping was just fire. You know what I mean? It was just like hit after hit. You know what I mean? Like she shouldn't be a superstar, but she was a fucking superstar. Period. You know what I'm saying? But anyway, so basically to kind of piggyback off the the production shit that we was kind of talking about. Her influences were wide and genuinely eclectic. She was inspired by Prince, George Clinton, Parliament Funkadelic, Janet Jackson. Um, she definitely loved, the sample-based tradition of hip hop that Timberland kind of brought, but she also loved, original tracks, but she also loved Bollywood, Afro beats, electronic music, and other, you know, music outside of hip hop that she could kind of pull in for Timberland to kind of, craft up some hits with. So it says, "Get Your Freak On" remains a definitive example. This beat and distinct Eastern melodic loop was a sparse yet globally infectious track. You know what I'm saying? It combined elements that had no business working together, but yet made them feel natural. Missy, she was also an underrated vocalist. She moves fluidly between rapping and singing within her different songs. So to go off track again, I remember um I think the group was called Sisters. Now I might have to Google that shit real quick on another screen, but I want to say that yeah, fuck, I gotta Google this shit. I think she was part of a group called Sisters. Yep, she was part of a group called Goddamn Sisters, a R&B female group, and that makes me think of another story that I don't got the full shit on, but as we go through the script, it's probably gonna touch on. But the long and short, they were trying to this is back, during the H Town, well, not H Town, that's too early, but still kind of tail end of the Jodeci, SWV era where it was all about the R&B groups, and this girl group that they had her in wasn't doing as well as they wanted it to do, and I guess whatever A&R at the time was like, well, the group is trash, not talent wise, but they wasn't doing numbers that they should have did as a group. But they said her, Missy, she's a star, and we need to keep her and get rid of all of them, and we can still make something happen with her. You know what I'm saying? So anyway, so it says that Shorty was 25 years old when the head of Electra Entertainment offered her a deal. But the terms of the deal were shaped by a negotiation most artists never get to make. So, according to her Rock and Roll Hall of Fame induction speech, her initial reluctance to step into the spotlight as a solo artist was overcome by the promise of her own record label. So this ties into what the fuck I was just saying. See, nigga be in the zone. Maybe it's this liquor, this big, but whatever. I was just telling y'all, and then the next paragraph is touching on that shit, giving more context. So she was part of this R&B group. They weren't popping, or the people didn't know how to correctly market this group. Whatever the fuck it was, it was. They knew Missy had the talent. They kept her, got rid of everybody else. And then not only that, they tripled down and said, not only do we want to keep you, we're going to give you your own fucking record label as part of the deal to keep just you. Artists wasn't getting no shit like that, especially a female artist getting a label deal. That shit is crazy for that time in history. You know what I'm saying? In the 1990s, the mid 90s. So anyway, she was reluctant to sign, but when they offered her own record label, she insisted. Yeah, she insisted. Okay, cool. They did it. She signed. She had her own label. That label became Goldmine Inc., which was underneath Elektra, and it gave her a degree of creative and commercial control that was extremely unusual for any artist in 1997. Fuck a male or female artist, for any artist. So this was her motherfucking green light to go ham. So her path to that deal came through years of work as a hired gun. Before she got to this point in 1997, she was, as I mentioned, part of an R&B group. She was probably ghostwriting low key for other people in the industry, which even got their attention to get her the deal as part of the girl group to start with. Um, she used this period to sharpen her songwriting and production skills and build the infrastructure that she would later go on to leverage. The swing mob years are underanalyzed in her biography, but functionally important. That's so when I say swing mob, Bree, think about Devontae, because really Devontae was that nigga, obviously, and Devontae he had the right idea, but clearly he didn't have the business acumen. You know what I'm saying? Because he had Missy, Timberland, Pharrell. He had all of these niggas kind of gathered up together under him, but not on paper signed the contracts. You know what I'm saying? But shout out to him for at least providing some
Dang,
kind of,
but why did he do it like that?
you have to think like, like in our everyday real life type shit. You we all are together in the Discord, but like in Dallas, you kind of got your separate shit popping. I might have some shit. Aries got his shit popping where he at or whatever. So while I'm assuming whenever Devontae might have been in VA, he would show love. He might have even blessed them with some studio time before they got with Studio Riley. I mean Teddy Riley, um, or provided some atmosphere for them to get together creatively to be able to do some shit to hone their skills. But because he probably wasn't consistently in a life like that to really see it through to the end, as we always say, he didn't get to monetize the talent that he had at his fingertips that you know end up blowing up. Because of course he's still busy moving and shaking with Jodeci.
Right.
So he couldn't, devote as much of his time and energy that he really wanted to these youngsters that he knew. Because when
At
you
least he didn't
talented,
scam them.
you know what I mean? When you talented, you know other talent. So Devontae knew that these niggas was gonna be the future in one way or another. He just couldn't, keep his hands on them long enough to steer that future. But anyway, the long and short. So prior to signing with Elektra, she had spent years with that group I told you about, Sister, which stalled inside of Devontae Swing Mob imprint. Ah, so that's how the connection comes together. That's how Devontae. So Devontae did have her signed as part of that girl group. Now it's making more sense. And it said, yeah, so she was signed to that girl group under his Swing Mob label, but then refused to release their recordings, and then they were basically shelved low key or high key, however you want to interpret it. And then their careers would, most people careers would be ended before it could even take off once your album been shelved. But rather than dissolving, creativity from a creative standpoint, Missy used that period to sharpen her songwriting and production skills and build the infrastructure. So she ended up, still leveling up regardless of the girl group being put on the shelf and collecting dust and falling off. So it says, as a businesswoman, she retained full creative control over her music, videos, and productions throughout her peak career, a status which reflects both the leverage she demanded, when she signed the deal, and the consistent commercial success that gave her ongoing negotiating power. So it's not like, okay, I got one hit. She probably was leveling up with each hit. Okay, boom, that shit is platinum. I need this. Next hit platinum. I need this now. I need that. To where they couldn't even fuck with her. Just let her do whatever she want to do. You know what I'm saying? Missy Elliott's career is a relatively unusual career in hip hop for the absence of a major destructive public beef. So the fact that she had a full career with no real rap beef, that's good. It reflects her strategic intelligence and genuine community orientation. So she was really trying to just show love to other artists rather than beef with them, which separates her from damn near 99% of everybody in hip hop. Um, she spent most of her career building collaborations and coalitions rather than adversarial positions. So her most important alliance is with Timberland, a relationship that predates their commercial careers and has been sustained across decades. The Virginia Beach natives got their start together in the early 1990s within Swing Mob, and while the collective stalled, the partnership between them remained intact and became the engine of some of the most innovative production of the late 1990s and early 2000s. Her working relations, damn, yo, as I go through this shit is bringing in further memories. So we didn't even get to Aaliyah, so now we get to Aaliyah. Her working relationships with Aaliyah deserve more examination than they typically receive. The Missy Timberland Aaliyah triangle was functionally a creative unit, and the work they did together on Aaliyah's One in a Million album in 1996, which was a massive commercial success, gave Missy and Timberland the platform and credibility to launch their own careers on favorable terms. Aaliyah's death in 2001 was a significant personal and professional loss that Missy has spoken about with evident grief in multiple interviews. So her collaborative network expanded as her career progressed. She would go on to work with Jay-Z, Beyonce, Katy Perry, Madonna, Janet Jackson, among others, and reflecting an ability to operate across multiple genres that very few hip hop artists have achieved. These were not mere feature appearances, but genuine creative collaborations that added to both parties' cultural capital. So when we look at Missy, every artist has something, from their childhood that helped shape who they would become, right? So now we're gonna kind of dip into some of that right now. The childhood trauma outlined initially, in the beginning that we touched on domestic violence, SA stuff, poverty, all of that stuff, contributed to her artistic situation, right? Is foundational. Her emphasis on female strength, self determination, and the refusal of victimhood across her discography, it reads differently when you really realize all of the shit that she went through. You know what I'm saying? So this is not music made from a position of comfort. This is music made by somebody who had to construct the tools of empowerment themselves from a young age. So the most significant adversity of her adult career was her diagnosis with Graves' disease, a hyperthyroid autoimmune condition which she disclosed publicly around 2008. The illness is largely responsible for limiting her music output after 2005, where she only kind of dropped scattered releases here and there. And at the most severe, the disease affected her motor control and basic physical functioning. The fact that this happened at what should have been the peak of her commercial leverage in her mid 30s with 6 platinum albums behind her, this represents a genuine rupture in what her career trajectory should have been. She's a superstar in our eyes right now. So if this disease that kicked into her personal life and affected her around 2005, if that shit never derailed her, she would have been bigger than, you get what I'm saying? So that's crazy. But,
Yeah, that
yeah,
that is wild.
that's crazy. You know what I mean? Go back to, you never know what people be going through behind the scenes. You know what I'm saying? They look like glitter, glitter and gold, but people be having their own struggles and tribulations. Like you say, famously, tell them, Bree. Some people be doing what in the Rolls
Yeah, I'm
Royce?
gonna cry in that Rolls Royce every time.
Exactly, nigga. I'd rather cry in the Rolls Royce than cry in the Hyundai.
Yeah.
Fuck that.
Crying the. Yup, I'm gonna cry every time in the rolls. At least I'm crying in the rolls.
Exactly, because everybody, half 99.9% of these niggas, Instagram, Twitter, Twitch, they presenting one thing. Them niggas is crying too somewhere. It's just a matter of where they crying at. They crying in the Hyundai or the Rolls Royce. But anyway, back to Missy. By 2015, it looked like she kind of got everything worked out from a health situation. She made a surprise appearance during the Super Bowl halftime show, and she, without even trying to, she outshined Katy Perry, who was one of the biggest pop stars in the world at that time. And that was basically the shot fired around the world. Bam, bam,
Nah,
bam.
that was big. Yeah, that's big because
She's,
Katy Perry is
yeah,
Katy Perry.
she's like, I'm back, 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 back. And then, once she, returned in 2015, she was back on the scene, moving and shaking. So, Missy Elliott, her cultural significance, it operates on 3 different levels, right? The first is her impact on the sonic and the aesthetic vocabulary of hip hop and R&B. The second is her role as a structural intervention in how women occupied that space in those genres. Third is her influence on visual culture, music video as an art form that extends well beyond music into fashion, choreography, and art direction. So I'm just gonna stop right there and go off script. Her music videos were definitely next level. All of them shits was crazy, and they were unique from a lot of the niggas' videos. Even though a lot of niggas was rushing to Hype Williams, who was that nigga during that time, she had a creative eye about her, creative sense. Like everything was just, you know, on the up and up. You know what I'm saying? But anyway, on a sonic level, the Missy Timberland partnership expanded what hip hop was permitted to sound like. The willingness to incorporate Bollywood percussion, and shit like that, and electronic influences. It changed up the whole sound of hip hop as far as the beats that people expected people to rap over. On the gender level, Super Duper Fly, the wild inventiveness and refreshing directiveness that changed the narrative surrounding women who made rap music. That single, it did a lot of things, but it also um, it kind of destroyed existing frameworks for female artists in hip hop. You didn't have to be hypersexualized, or you didn't have to be extra tough. You didn't have to be brolic. You know what I'm saying? I was gonna say another word, breed. That's why I said brolic. But basically, She created her own sound, and people like Queen Latifah, who introduced her at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, summarized this simply by saying, "Nothing sounded the same after Missy came onto the scene." So, on a visual level, working with director Hype Williams, who I just touched on, and custom designer June Ambrose, she redefined the look of hip hop, bringing a new level of visual inventiveness and sophistication to the genre. The inflatable suit that she wore from Super Duper Fly to Rain is now taught in art and design schools as an example of avant garde visual communication through commercial media. A shorty from the hood of Portsmouth, Virginia, got people teaching classes in art schools about shit she done did in a music video. So then it goes on further. The reverse footage sequences and Work It, the surrealistic imagery across her video catalog. These are not just promotional materials, they are visual artworks produced at the intersection of music, fashion, and cinema. And then Missy Elliott's economic story is more complicated than her success narrative suggests, and it is under examined in most accounts. The Goldmine Inc. imprint gave her creative control, but operated within the larger Electra Atlantic infrastructure, meaning that the economics of her success was still substantially filtered through a major label apparatus. Full publishing ownership and genuine independence are different things from having your own imprint, and the distinction matters when analyzing how much of her commercial success translated into personal wealth. So, what's clear is that she built meaningful infrastructure. She had the label, she had production credits, songwriting royalties from her work and other artists that gave her income streams beyond recording. Her work writing, ghostwriting, and producing for Jodeci, she was producing, I mean, and songwriting for Jodeci, Aaliyah, Janet Jackson, fucking Whitney Houston, and many others. Her financial position was not solely dependent on just being an artist. You know what I'm saying? And that diversification was smart and showed that she had foresight. She was truly a boss. You know what I'm saying? So once again, I salute her. Um, so back to the Graves situation. The Graves disease diagnosis in her mid 30s had a significant financial consequence that was never really touched on. A decade of reduced output during what should have been her highest earning years in touring, endorsements, new releases represents a substantial loss opportunity in cost dollars. So by 2005, the cookbook debuted at number 2 on Billboard 200, selling over 170,000 copies the first week. And then her illness kind of kicked in and pretty much put her on the sideline. The gap between the artist she was and a catalog that she might have built is really one of the great tragedies in hip hop from that standpoint. You know what I mean? Like, we love and celebrate what she built, but what she built, minus that injury, she would have been on the whole. I'm just gonna jump out the window and say she might have been a billionaire way before goddamn Jay-Z would have been a billionaire. You know what I'm saying? Because she was touching into too many different fucking bags of success, royalties, songwriting, producing. She might have branched off into some goddamn movie Hollywood shit eventually herself. You know what I'm saying? But we're gonna keep this thing moving. The foundational recording environment that Missy did her debut album in was Master Sound Studio in Virginia Beach. So it wasn't no big New York or LA situation, and the entire operation, the fact that it kind of was done in VA helped give them that unique sound. And the fact that they didn't have pressure from A&Rs or label executives also helped. So all of those things kind of help create that unique Virginia Beach sound, you know what I'm saying? So Timbaland's production during their peak from 1997 to 2005 was ahead of industry norms and the use of digital samples, drum beats, the incorporation of Western musical textures. The tools were available to other producers, but the application was unique. Missy's role in the process was not passive. She consistently pushed for stranger, more experimental choices, and her instincts about what was too conservative frequently overrode more cautious industry feedback. So, once again, the labels are going to try to control everything, but she was a strong individual to say, fuck y'all, this is what I'm going to do. Y'all may think this is good, but I could do way better. Everybody is doing this. I'm gonna do that. Fuck y'all niggas. Just be ready when I drop the goddamn tape off and get ready to, ship this shit out. So that's pretty much what that shit was. So by 2023, Missy Elliott became the first female rapper inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. She was inducted in her first year of eligibility, making her the 11th rapper overall in the institution's history. So she's not only the 11th rapper, but she's the first black female rapper to be inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, which is very significant. And of course, me, I'm going to give you 1,000 sidetracks and off scripts. The Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, every nigga deserved to be in that motherfucker that deserved to be in there because black people created rock and roll from the jump. These devils co opted it and stole that shit. Yes, I'm saying they stole it and it's documented heavily. You know what I mean? I gotta also give shouts out to Rosetta Tharpe, who was a gospel singer who did some unusual shit in the early 1920s and maybe even earlier. She was one of the first and few people, instead of people being in church singing gospel music, and people probably just playing the piano and doing some clapping and all that type of shit. Shorty was singing gospel music to a motherfucking guitar. She set the blueprint for what you envision as the rock and roll nigga. Chuck Berry, Robert Johnson, who basically, if you watch that movie Sinners, the main star, I forgot the little nigga name, but that nigga, he's supposed to be Robert Johnson. If you put the pieces together,
Michael
these
B. Jordan?
no, the nephew, the cousin, whatever is the little nigga who had the razor claws on his face. The one that they didn't want,
Uh,
the one who survived the night.
yeah.
You know, it's about the little
So,
nigga.
oh yeah, the little kid.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
yeah, yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah. He's supposed to be Robert Johnson. So Robert Johnson, and like I said, I'm sourced right now, so forgive me
Oh,
to the
okay. So,
viewers. Robert
oh, the
Johnson,
preacher boy, Sammy
preacher
Moore.
boy,
Sammy Moore.
exactly. So Robert Johnson is a uh, 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 at this point, I'm just gonna say a mythological figure that they said didn't know how to play no kind of music. He went to the graveyard and started playing his guitar in the 1920s. made a deal with the devil, sold his soul at age 27, and then left out of the graveyard and became the best guitar player ever at that era.
Oh, is that why the ending is like that?
Yeah, he's basically that nigga, you know what I'm saying? Had he lived and not died or whatever. He could have been a real person. I gotta circle back, but like I said, you know me, I'm going off the juice. But you know what I mean? But I'm just trying to pull in some cultural history behind this shit too. As far as why rock and roll, for those listeners and viewers who don't know and think rock and roll is a white genre, it is not a white genre. It is a black created genre that was co opted or stolen because the early black artists were fucking directly copied. So that's like if me and you was a group in the 1920s, 30s, 40s, 50s, and we put out a little joint in the hood that was a hit, the white people would come to the hood and either see us perform live or listen to our shit on the radio and then write the shit down word for word and then give the same lyrics that we sung to a white group and then release the fucking song on a white label and get rich off the same lyrics and creativity that we did. And they were literally jacking niggas like that. And then, of course, the original culture vulture, or not the original, the most famous was Elvis Presley, who was known to frequent the hood juke joints at that time and just soak up game and black swag, became identified as the king of rock and roll when he was nowhere near a king. He was a fucking peasant and a nigga who was looking from the goddamn crowd as the real kings was doing what they was doing. So when you look at Elvis Presley hair, his hair is styled like James Brown in that conch hairstyle. That's what the shit was called. If you ever watched the Elvis Presley, I mean the James Brown biography with Chadwick Boseman, white people hair was already naturally loose and silky, so there was no need for a white boy to have his hair in a style that black people who have nappy hair, they got they hair done in that conch because the hair was, they had to put the chemical in there to loosen up the hair to make it straight, basically a perm. And then once it was perm, then they would kind of comb it into that style, hairstyle, which was a popular style at that time. Elvis, a white boy, didn't need to style his hair like that because he already had white hair. But Elvis stole every aspect of James Brown shit low key and then got famous copying this nigga for all intents and purposes. But fuck it. I don't even feel bad about the sidetrack. You devils and you young niggas and you young white people and you old white people, y'all motherfuckers are gonna learn fucking with me the real history of this music shit. Every genre in America, damn near, is black music. And I'll circle back on y'all after I eat dinner later on tonight, maybe with a follow up video on
Not the maybe.
how every motherfucking genre in American music is black music. We done created everything from goddamn house, EDM, techno, electro, goddamn it. You think of it, a
Facts.
nigga made it. All these white pop stars of the last goddamn 50 years, there was a nigga in arm's reach that either
Yeah, black
didn't get
people created
created,
everything.
they didn't get created, or as we got closer to the 2000s, they finally got credit for. Your Backstreet Boys, your Justin Timberlakes, it was niggas. Motherfucking who are these niggas from House Party? The Brawler niggas. They sung Tender Love. Tender love, love so tender. God damn it, where y'all old niggas at in the chat? In the Discord, supposed to come help me. Y'all know what I'm talking about. Motherfucking Force MDs. I'm on your ass, Trish. You supposed to have chimed in on that one. The Force MDs were ghostwriting all of them classic hits from the Backstreet Boys and NSYNC type shit. You know what I'm saying? These white boys ain't just coming out of nowhere with talent. popping off like that. There's a nigga in arm's reach always. Fuck out of here. All right, anyway, going back to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, every nigga that's brought in been deserved to be in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. And the white people know that as well. That's why they started to recently just start accepting niggas into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Because they know the motherfucking real history. And they probably, a smart devil was like, let's get ahead of this shit by just starting to bring these rap niggas into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame before niggas really pull out motherfucking skirt and reveal what I'm revealing right fucking now. Because if you think about it and put your thinking cap on, well, then why there's not a hip hop Hall of Fame? These crackers always need to attach themselves to us to shine. They can't shine without us. You don't hear no rock and roll niggas going crazy like that nowadays. And if there is, I don't know them niggas. What rock and roll niggas you know right now as a young person, Bree, off the top of your head? Give me 3 rock and roll groups that's popping, going crazy right now that you can name off the top of your dome.
No, right now, no. Hell no. That was like an era. It was like System of the Down, what were those brothers? Not Green Bay. Yeah. Wake me up when September ends. Well, Green Day.
Yeah,
And
Green
then
Day. Is Linkin Park
yeah,
another one to throw in there?
Evanescence, Linkin Park. Yeah.
Yeah, you
But
know what I'm saying?
none
Yeah,
of those people are relevant now.
but so that was early 2000s. From what you're saying.
Yeah, I would say like 2005, definitely to
So you
like,
was like what, in
yeah,
elementary, middle
yeah,
school?
yeah, hell yeah. Elementary school, like that shit, they were like lit. Like black people listen to it. Like if you're
Come
30
on, we
through
finna go
like
in.
40, you listen to Green Bay, Lincoln Park. Like it didn't matter even if you were white. Like black
Yeah.
people listen to that shit too.
And then look, to do the famous on an all new Smallville.
Hold
Yeah,
on.
like every nigga in here don't watch
Come
don't
on, Bella.
watch the
Oh, David
CW
at the
network.
disco.
That's
And haven't you people
Come here.
ever heard
Come here. Come
of
here.
Thanksgiving?
yeah.
Come
Dell's
on.
at
Come on.
440.
Come on, Bella.
Huh?
Look, y'all niggas.
Dell's at
Bella.
440.
Look, this
Stop
nigga over here,
lying.
he
We're
was
on food
reprimanding the
water.
I
children on the
swear to
live.
God. My bad. I'm sorry.
Yeah. We almost through. We almost done. We almost
Lolo,
done.
get down. You dirty. Get
Boy,
off the couch.
this nigga over here.
I forgot we were
Dirty. You
live.
gonna come in here and try to stand on my couch with your dirty clothes?
look, for all y'all in the internet that's viewing, this is what I gotta deal with. So with all that said, I want to give my flowers to Missy Elliot, a icon, living legend. Without her, there is no Cardi B.
Oh, you answered?
There is no Nicki Minaj, no Megan Thee Stallion, no Lizzo, no Doja Cat, no Doechii,
They
none of
don't
them.
even compare to her.
Exactly.
Come here, boy.
And
We have no artist that's anywhere near close to the caliber of Missy Elliott.
exactly. Yeah, Missy definitely was on a whole other level.
Mistake.
And
Thank you.
then old Flo, he's still just going off. But yeah, I'm gonna wrap this shit up.
My mic came on.
Nigga,
Yeah.
you been reprimanding them kids for the last 10 minutes, nigga.
I just walked in the house.
But yeah, we're gonna wrap this live up. I just do these lives really because the benefit is it transcribes everything. I'm gonna chop this shit up into probably a bunch of smaller clips anyway. So but yeah, I appreciate y'all riding with me on it. So oh damn, pardon me.